Hey everybody, Everett's Live Music. Shout out here on the Indigenous Peoples Day, 9th of October 2023. And, I didn't get out there and ask a whole bunch of people, but I did. I asked some scouts, a couple Boy Scouts in a what looked like a den mother or something there, right? And then asked a couple, just a woman in the store. Sounded like she had a little bit of an accent, so she wasn't sure. And then asked, but out of all those people, that's only 4 people, but they were they actually didn't know that it was going to be a holiday today. For the most part, I think the kids are told that it's childhood development. My child, she's 7th grade, and those must have been like Cub Scout boys that I seen with the den mother. But so in 7th grade, I guess she talked about it in school. They actually had a little discussion, which sounded cool. And the class decided Indigenous Day is probably a good thing. Some those people that I spoke with, they're like, why did you ever change it from Columbus Day? Well, good question, and I'd say the same. I asked it the other day, did anybody ask the Indigenous people? And somebody might have, for sure, and I even called like a smoke shop, a tribal smoke shop, and spoke to a guy. He's getting paid overtime. He's getting holiday pay for today, so he'll get paid holiday pay for today. And it's simple as, well, you didn't discover America, Columbus. There was already people here. We're pretty sure they got here across from the Russia, when there was the Ice Age. I'm imagining after the Ice Age, and there was a land bridge, or however they did it at one point. I didn't research this, but I'm from what I remember in history and stuff. That's what we imagine how they got here, the natives, and then I imagine they just kept going further south. But Columbus didn't discover America, and I mentioned before about that. Like the most recent chance we got to look at how probably what the Europeans felt was civilization had found just a bunch of natives again, probably. And I imagine in Europe they must have already have known of the native tribes from Africa. You would have ventured down there one time or another and probably saw them to be way off the mark too. But it's kind of funny how they didn't screw the whole planet up, and maybe some people think like we haven't neither. But I think at times it's definitely been proven now there's some jeopardy, and for all the species that are dying as we expand, I mean it's for certain for them. The weird thing is too, man, like a thing to think about is the planet doesn't need human beings. Human beings need the planet. But somewhere along the line, we definitely we changed all of that. I mean, that was quickly tossed aside to well, that works fine for somebody that's plans on, I don't know, what are you going to rub sticks and eat berries and, maybe not. Did the natives have it perfect? Probably not. I don't know what you would think perfect is, but if you're living with the land, that's pretty damn good. There's very little destruction on a grand scale, and for the way they were living. So we watched Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee yesterday as like a weekend thing for this. I think it should be like the whole weekend celebrating the natives of this part of the planet, if they so decide to, and definitely I'm all for change Columbus Day, because maybe some people had good intentions, but in the long run, you know how it went. From deforestation and all this that just keeps going. It was pretty wild. I think I mentioned it before, too. Because in Europe, they did that at one point, man, because you're expanding so much. There's so many people in areas. I mean, you cut down so many forests, so much. And then they started cutting down the forests here. And this is way back when, in the early days, and then they keep hauling the lumber across the ocean, knowing that you cut down all your trees at once. Does anybody plan way ahead, or is it just the here and now? And we must take as much land as we can, because if we don't take it, then someone will. I think that's always been one level of mentality that we use in life. It's kind of weird, man, but some of it's actually true. Somebody was coming over here eventually. I don't know if it's been better for us. The British definitely weren't approving of the way we were running things and doing things through our government, but they wanted, to possess the land as well as the French. And however it works out through our history, it's certainly been done, and it's we're here and now. And I think about Indigenous Day today, and now I'm going to try and get that tune. I'm going to actually move some of the verses around. That was kind of like a raw song I wrote real quick last year, and got it going again. And here I am. I'm going to get that back out there, but just thinking about that stuff a little bit. Definitely for today. And I don't hear anything on the radio about it. And it's kind of weird. The kids, the little kids, they don't know nothing about it. I asked even a couple kids here where I live, they're like, no, tomorrow's Child Development Day. They don't know that it's Columbus Day or Indigenous Day. Indigenous Peoples Day, I guess, is the full term for it. But kind of interesting. I think that's really bizarre that, do you not want to celebrate that at all? And we've already passed other days in the past, if you follow which nobody is at the moment. Maybe someday, but it's there, it's in it, And I've spoke about it before. It's kind of strange. We don't celebrate Indigenous people. We don't really celebrate the planet. Some people will tell you every day's Nature Day. Sure, yeah, right. Okay. And again, it's not most of the holidays that I've been talking about throughout these posts is it has nothing to do with presents and gifts and all this other stuff. It's just celebrating life, man. Some of the history, some of the ideas that other people had, some of the ways they lived with the land, and they didn't view the land as something you can possibly own. And for a moment, try to wrap your mind around the idea of going somewhere, right? Meeting an alien race is how I'm going to describe it, because it's our best chance of maybe looking hard at ourselves. And you find these people, and they live totally different than you live, but all you can imagine to yourself is changing them to live like you, because in your mind, and through whatever you're using for your direction in life, the resources that you are using to drive your way of life, and the way you are driven, and the way you are told, and the way you're raised generation after generation, that you're right. But that happened for so long, and then eventually we start seeing maybe I don't know, man, did we take too much? Are we going too fast? And I don't see really a hard look at that. I think it's almost too real for some people, so why would you want to talk about it? That's depressing to one degree or another. What do you want us to do? I don't know, not everything at once, but see it for what it is and be and for the Indigenous people, I would say, just what an unfortunate part of history for you. You succumb to disease, a lot worse. But there was it's just everything around them that must have been terrible to watch and happen. The killing of all the animals, man, so many, dude. Because that's a way of life, and you know why? Because you're gonna get money. Not only that, now you're going to own the land, and just trying to relate to another person through their whole existence is never even imagined. I'm going to own the land, and everything I kill I can sell, and I'm going to start killing a lot more because I can sell more. And I don't think they were really well introduced into whiskey and different things like that. So of course, and through the history of who we are and the way that you've seen life go, I mean, I'm looking for a car right now. I've been burned a few times on a car, man, buying cars here in the city, you know. And I wonder how many of these people think like they're the new natives of life. That's right. I'm a survivor and stuff. So you rip people off, you know. You put the additives in and the sealants, and like a month or two later, all of a sudden the radiator starts leaking, the transmission starts leaking, you know. And either you can get even and get, that's right, or you can take legal action and spend all that time doing that. For some of us, I mean, we just keep going. The vehicle gets you by for a year or two, and you don't pay too much, a couple grand, you know, and you work and whatever. Probably you get the chance to write it off, right? It's just a weird system in a weird way, in a weird, I wonder if they feel, because some of the natives from in the day, man, they lived life different. We were like, you know, you do this wrong or you do that wrong. Well, they didn't live by the same rules. So, I mean, definitely we have rules set up now, but back then they were living a different way of life. So just that whole integration and the coming together, and then the total dominance that they had to stand by and watch, because they couldn't, I mean, you didn't stand a chance. Your own people used against one another at one time or another, because you're not ready to do politics, right, with somebody who's seasoned in the way of life that's being forced onto another, and then that other person's trying to keep up with some kind of an idea that's it's not even a way that they imagined life. So a pretty interesting thing. Who's right or wrong in the end? I mean, we're just here today. So I would think it would be important just to recognize that, ask them, talk to them, and, you know, definitely see the benefit of, like, they did not leave a carbon footprint on this planet. And the strongest thing I can say today is the planet doesn't need human beings. Human beings need the planet. So hopefully maybe that'll be one that sticks with you. Not only that it's Indigenous Day, but like I think they actually realized that, and we were not realizing that at that moment in life. So who was the smarter person? I mean, you can argue that stuff as much as you'd like, but all I want to say is, you know, they had no idea about owning Earth. They believed they needed it and everything on it, and you're simply a part of it. So when I think of those things, and I'm not a Native American, I might have like a little bit, and I don't really know what tribe it ever came from. I remember the area and the major tribe from that area, but it doesn't mean I'm from that tribe at all. I'd have to research and stuff, and I haven't done that. Someday maybe, but, you know, just I hope you took a moment today, and then maybe in the future it's something that's actually recognized. I'm curious why nobody wants to say, you know, today's Indigenous Day, and like, you know, we went out for a walk this morning, you know, and I've learned through the time I've spent here in the desert and stuff, some of the things they used to do and some of the things they could eat, and I mentioned that the other day. So imagine the mesquite trees. Have you ever heard of mesquite trees? That's how you get that mesquite charcoal, right? The mesquite chips that you throw in there makes it really taste really good. It's really good burning wood. It burns, you know, like a hardwood, I think, to one degree or another, and it, you know, so it's going to burn slow and long, and it was a very effective tree for them, very much so. I mean, they used everything they killed, they use everything from it. So, but with that said, like, there's a bean that comes off of it, and it's like a long bean, and it's got like little beans in it, you know, so it's like a bean pod, and then inside, so they would open those up, you know, and gather them from these mesquite trees, because this is a really hard environment area to live in, the desert. But they would use those and gather enough of them, and you know, crush them up, and then add probably water and stuff, and they'd make a giant dough out of it. So that was one thing they would eat. And then the cholla cactus, if prepared right, the insides of it, if you get rid of the prickers, that's another one that they were eating. And there's other flowers off of the cactuses, the variations of them that are edible at times. And you start discovering some of these ways that they must have made their way through this land and lived with it and gathered and what they could and used it to its full extent. And I applaud that greatly, because it's the Southern Paiute for here, the most recent tribes, but even the Anasazi, who date back thousands of years here, they were in this area as well. They lived up and down, I'm sure, that Colorado River. I don't study them, but that is one of the oldest ones. They had the Adel. I think they were one of the first tribes to develop like a bow and arrow, but the Adel's not a bow and arrow. It's more of a one stick launches another stick. It's got a little hook in it. You put your projectile stick in there, your arrow or dart, you might call it. And you're probably only good for about 10 yards, but I mean, to be good at that thing, that would be something, because the cottontail, there was a lot of cottontail here, and I applaud all of that. Take the moment today to recognize them. And I say happy Indigenous Day. I could not see it differently, especially if any of them ever decided, yes, we would like to take that day for us. Columbus did not discover, no. And this isn't Europe. But it can be made, right? To the victors go the spoils, and to the victors, history is written by them. I think the natives were probably they were pretty native, pretty wild people. Fine. They live here. That's how they live. Imagine if we would have stayed offshore for a while, right? And slowly, instead of that forceful, but right, again, what drives us is, if I don't take it, someone else will. And we have these theories because we've put that money into our society. And that dominates us, man. It drives every bit of what we've done. No doubt about it. That's why we had to go from coast to coast and get all the land as quick as we could, or you'd lose it to the French or the Spanish or the British again. And that's been that mentality that we've been living with for so long. And the same mentality that trickles down into me trying to find a horse now, because that's what it is. I'm trying to get a car, and I don't live in the nicest areas. We've had car windows shot out, bicycles stolen. It's just life. Because that's how it is, and I guess that's part of what drives us. It's that money, and I have to get by in life too, But many people, and I don't know if there's enough for everyone to go around always. I can't stand some of those cliche statements. I'm just trying to get by. Just don't hate a player. Don't hate the player. Or whatever you might say, because that is true to one degree or another. That's what we've been doing, and it's unfortunate, I think, for the future generations and stuff. And not everybody's that way, but in the bigger cities, it's definitely more of a way, and got to do something to make a living, whatever you might say. So it's unfortunate, but you see it's on all levels, And I was like, yesterday we were watching the Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. I'm like, there's your first massacre, the mass killings that we have now. Now people are doing them to other people, but there's been times, man, our own government has ordered it at times, and you can argue that they had to, or and I don't totally blame Custer, because Custer had his orders that were handed down. And so many times, so many treaties broken, and so many different times you were made to relocate, and just to not give them their day and not even recognize, not even mention it, I think is that's disrespectful. Maybe you'd like to bury it all. I see some of that recently. that old woke thing and different stuff, and they don't want to they don't want to teach it in school. Racism, that it exists, that it actually has happened, and that, I mean, how could you not? To me, it's and at the end of it all, I think money's always going to be there to one degree or another, because I mean, that's why you wanted to more, 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 more. If I don't take it, somebody else will. But hey, happy Indigenous Day, and I think greatly of the history, and I feel unfortunate for so many. Like, and some tried so hard sometimes, to make peace, and then they found themselves in the middle, I mentioned the princess. They call her Princess Winnemucca, Tokmantane, and she tried to go back and forth, and whether she was like totally not accepted or just kind of not accepted, still in the end you're very much left on the outside. Neither side wants you, and your efforts have failed because there's money involved, dude. And in the end, that's what wins. Peace.